Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, today's ink is by MontBlanc, Midnight Blue. Now, I should say that this is the new formulation, which means that it is not the Iron-Gall formula. It's just the regular dark Midnight Blue. Obviously, when it comes in cartridges, it looks like this. When it comes in bottles, it looks like this. Of course, this is blue, not green. And I thought I'd compare. It seems like just about every major brand has an ink called Midnight Blue, so I thought I'd compare Diatramentis' Midnight Blue, which is kind of green, Diamine, which is nice solid dark blue, Private Reserve, which just slightly hints towards purple, Noodler's, which is very dark, and MontBlanc, which, as you can see, is a bit lighter, but it also shades a lot more. There's all kinds of stuff going on in here. It's like almost purple, and then in here it's almost gold. Lots of weird stuff going on, but it's interesting. Check out the chromatography. As you can see by this dark, sort of solid dark gray band here down at the bottom, there's definitely some water resistance, and mostly what's going to wash away is the blue. And although my camera has this thing where it likes to turn certain colors neon, this blue really is this bright, vibrant blue up at the edge, so that's kind of interesting. Now, the pens I used were a MonteVerde Impressa with a 1.1 stub, and I felt it would be festive to use a MontBlanc, so I borrowed my mother's Solitaire Vermeil MontBlanc. It's essentially a MontBlanc 144 with a precious metal. I don't know. It's a fine. And it never gets used, and I felt that was kind of sad, so borrowed it for these tests. Top down in density, Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. Now, as I hope you will see when my camera stops freaking out, this is a very dark something. I say here it's not so much blue in the blue black as sort of like a gray with sort of a slate blue tinge. So, but yeah, no bleed feather spread. In the fine, it took 18 seconds, which for some reason, this pen on the downstrokes, it's very wet, and every other direction on the nib is very dry. So, I don't know. But the stub was 17. You see there's good shading, no bleed feather spread. A decent amount of water resistance, despite it no longer being an Iron-Gall formula. I mean, that's very dark, it's very clear. In fact, it's almost darker than the regular writing. It is a little patchy, but yeah. Next is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter, where the fine took 12 seconds and the stub took 14. And again, you see a very nice degree of shading in both pens. I said it was very well behaved. Again, a decent amount of water resistance. Oddly, the fine nib seems to be doing better than the stub, even though the stub is obviously a bit wetter. But yeah, really, really not bad water resistance. No bleed feather spread. Next is Tomoe River Paper, where the dry times got quite long. The fine was 21 seconds, which really surprised me, and the stub took 25. But as you can see, there's a great degree of shading here. And you do get a bit of a halo effect. No sheen, though. And I said, it looks much more like an accurate Prussian blue, more than the Diamine ever did. Yes, I'm still a little bitter about that. Diamine's Prussian blue was just pathetic. But anyways, decent water test, especially considering this is Tomoe River. It loves to let ink just slide away when you add more water. There is a bit, here, let's get this on a white background. There is a bit of echo potential because this is a fairly dark ink and this is very thin paper. Now for the 20-pound copy paper test, I just used the Solitaire, the fine, and you still, okay, except for the name, but you still see a good degree of shading, only 4 seconds to dry, but there is some spread, there is some bleed, you do see some feathering. I just want to show you the difference between fine on this paper and how it's spread. But yeah, excellent water test. That's a very good water test. So that was impressive. But there was bleed. I mean, that's not just the light coming through the paper. That's bleed. And considering this is just a fine nib and it's pretty dry in every direction but the downstroke, that was not a great showing. Next is Mead Notebook Paper, where it took 4 seconds to dry. And again, I just used the MontBlanc Solitaire. Come on, camera. Anyways, yeah, good degree of shading, but I feel like here you really see just what I mean by every nib direction but down is pretty dry. Especially like in boxing. But anyways, yeah, I was impressed. There was really no bleed. There was near bleed in a few spots. As you can see, it's really only at the edge, which makes me think it's part of the pressing process because this is obscenely cheap paper. However, there is a good degree of echo because this is very, very thin paper and this is a fairly dark ink. I said it may not do well on this paper in general because, like I said, it's a fine nib and it's a mostly dry. Not bad water test. It's fairly dark, fairly there. It's a little patchy in places, but really not too bad. And lastly is Moleskine Notebook Paper, where because this is that weird old Moleskine notebook paper, old as in old production, but new to my uses in these tests, there's no bleed. For some reason, this old Moleskine paper is behaving much better than any modern Moleskine paper I've encountered. So I used both pens, and as you can see, there's a good degree of shading. Yeah, I kind of annoyed with this paper, but yeah, I'm annoyed with it because there's no bleed or feather or spread, and it behaves well, but I'm annoyed with it because I know that's not how it's going to be most of the time. But yeah, a little patchy, but decent water test. Dry times really aren't terrible. I said I really prefer the look of it in a wet stub more than the fine nib, but that's my preference in general. So there you go for your consideration from the Triple N Network. MontBlanc's Midnight Blue. It's I never tried the Iron-Gall formula, so I am perfectly fine with this more fountain pen friendly version. It's more like a dark gray that flirts with blue, but I'm actually warming up to it. It's really not bad. So for your consideration from the Triple N Network, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.